Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, and welcome to the Build Your Business Show. I'm your host, Laverne van Wyk, and I hope today is informative, and I hope today is of value to our listeners. It's exactly 1 p.m. on this beautiful Thursday afternoon, and today we are talking property, property, property. With me in studio today, I've got Dexter Kannemeyer, and he's from Keller Williams Realty. Hi Dexter, how are you?
Hi Laverne, I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show today.
It's an absolute pleasure. So, just to put into context, the topic for today, the South African residential property market is the most important market, accounting for the bulk of property assets, a substantial source of household wealth. Despite uncertainties surrounding COVID 19 and the subsequent lockdowns, the residential property market became one of South Africa's more robust sectors. While first time buyers boosted the housing market in 2020, repeat purchases drove the national housing market in 2021. As first time buyers felt the brunt of the sluggish economy and the fading of the benefits of the rate cuts. We've got Dexter today to share his knowledge, experience, and of course, guidance. Yes, if you are a first time soon to be house owner or would like to be, stay tuned. We've got some valuable information to share. So, before further ado, Dexter, just introduce yourself. I'm not going to read your bio, so this is your chance.
Okay, so good afternoon to all the listeners out there. My name is Dexter Kannemeyer. I'm 32 years old, born and bred in Port Elizabeth. I am married with 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. And my hobbies include, I like hunting, I enjoy that a lot, and deep sea fishing. I obviously enjoy sports, but my passion lays with real estate.
Alrighty. So we are at real estate now, and that's not where you started. So maybe just take us through your career path. I think some of the listeners will previously know you from events and so forth. So let's just give us the journey of what you've taken to be in this position you are today.
Okay, so basically I've been in sales all my life. Like most people would know in PE as well, that I did start out as a DJ and events promoter in Port Elizabeth, and I've built actually quite a big database on social media, which I used to use for my sales jobs that I had. And when we talk about property, my younger brother is also a real estate agent. We actually work for the oppositions.
Some competition.
And my mom's been a real estate agent, as from the 1st of Feb, we're actually called property practitioners, no longer real estate agents. My mom's been in the industry for about 18 years, and my dad, he was also interviewed last year on Agap FM. He owns a contracting business and an up-and-coming property developer. So property's basically been running my family all my life as well. But I really took the interest last year when during COVID, obviously I got my contract expired with the company I used to work for, and my mom asked me to why don't I just give it a try.
Yeah, you've been avoiding it.
And yeah, I gave it a shot, and I'm really enjoying it now. Yeah.
Awesome. Tell us about KW Explorer or Keller Williams Realty. Tell us about the company.
Okay, so KW is actually Keller Williams Realty. It's an international company. They're in over 24 countries. In Port Elizabeth, we go under KW Explore, and I joined them last year September. The main reason is that in our company, God is first before everything else.
Amen.
And also the people there, they made me feel so comfortable. They're always willing to help. The training facilities that we have at the office is very professional. And yeah, it's really, if there's anyone out there that's looking at becoming a real estate agent or interested in properties, it doesn't matter what it is in property, you're welcome to join us at our offices. We are situated in Newton Park.
Awesome. Okay, let's get into it. So, I am the owner of a property or residential property. Take me through the process the owner should follow to get the property off the market.
Okay, so firstly, Laverne, pricing is important. If your property is overpriced, it is not going to sell, and that's just the reality of it. The important part is if you price your property at a good price, your property should sell within its first 3 weeks. If it doesn't sell within its first 3 weeks, the property, 99% of the time, it is overpriced. Another thing that the seller can control is also the condition of the property. So I'm not saying do major renovations when wanting to sell, like your kitchen or your bathrooms, even though that is that they make a big boosts the value of your property. But small renovations like painting maybe the front wall, making sure your garden is neat, touching up here and there, small things that people actually look for when they come into view a property.
You are looking to attract the buyer,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And as a female, normally, so when I'm on property 24, I look at the different houses, and definitely the first place of interest is one, how many photos am I going through?
Yeah.
Two, do I see the kitchen and the
Yeah,
bathroom?
for sure.
So attraction is definitely a key item, and I think, like you just mentioned, ensuring that it's maintained.
Yes.
And I know the argument would be, well, why do I want to spend quite a lot of money up front while I'm trying to sell my property? But I think the key value there is small little enhancements and a little bit of maintenance to attract the buyer.
For sure. And like you said, talking about pictures as well, when people go online to visit these property portals, sometimes you come across properties where they'll have like 60 different pictures, but the first 5 pictures is of the front of the house. By the time you get to your 6th picture, you're already tired of looking at that specific property. So first impressions is always important as well. And your photographs must be professionally done. And your house should sell with the first 4 photos that those people see already when you're viewing the property online. So that's very important as well.
Okay, that's also from a selling perspective. So I am now the seller of the property, and let's just stick from the seller perspective. A lot of people go, well, why do I need an agent? Okay, why do I need a state company? Why can't I sell my property myself? And I'm sure there's a lot of detail underneath all of that. So let's just go through the process of the seller. So I have the thought of selling my house. Obviously, you're going to tell me why I should come to you later. But what is the value in having the agent?
So our services, right? There's a lot of people that would prefer to do it privately, but then on first-hand experience as well, I've seen that it's always they always come across hiccups or something goes wrong. We provide professional service, so for a seller, obviously we are on your side because the seller pays our commission, right?
Yes.
So, like I said, we won't be marketing your property for you. We'll be sending the videographers, the photographers in. We'll be communicating with the conveyancers as well. So there's a lot of things, a lot of steps that you can go through by yourself. But I mean, it's just I don't know how to explain, but it's just 100 times better to use a property practitioner to do that for you.
I'm sure it just comes down to experience and understanding the trade. If I inherited a property and I'm interested in selling it, and I was never in a conversation of property before, the value add is definitely in understanding all of that, the registration of the master's office, or all of the administration things that we don't talk about every day in our day-to-day lives. But the value must definitely be in your experience in terms of what needs to happen or what you need to put in place, or even just the tricks and the trades of the industry. As you just said, the first 4 photos would sell your house. If your house doesn't sell in the first 3 weeks, or there's a certain rate of interest, then there's certain things that you definitely need to have a look at. Now let's talk about the buyer. So I am a potential, I'm in the market to buy a property. What is the process or the steps that I should take as a potential buyer of the property?
So if you're looking at buying a property and you are serious, the first thing you need to do is obviously get a pre-approval if you're looking at taking out a bond or if you're a cash buyer. What I tend to see as well, which works best, is if somebody that's interested in buying a specific property, if they've saved up to put on deposit for that specific house, they'll obviously need to get pre-approved for a bond for the balance of the amount that is owed on the property. So I would say the first thing you do if you want to buy a property is get pre-approved. Because if you don't get pre-approved and you don't have the finances, the cash to buy the property itself, then you're just wasting your time.
Of course, and I think that also adds to well, the type of properties you can look at. I mean, if I know my budget is a certain amount of money, then I'm sure you'll know exactly what to look for on my behalf.
No, exactly like I said earlier as well, to make use of our services, for you to be the buyer and you want me to represent you, I will contact those listing agents. I will search the property that will match your criteria, your budget, but the only time I can do that for you is if you are pre-approved already. Otherwise, I'll be wasting the listing agent's time and you're wasting your own time. Understand what I'm saying, Laverne?
Awesome. Yes. I think the listeners out there understand it. I think property has evolved in the last couple of years, and of course, affordability is a key element. We always see valuations, and I see it quite a lot. So, property valuations, what is it and why is it important?
Okay, so an evaluation is, what we do is we will draw up, we'll do analysis in a specific area. So if you're from Western, we'll do our analysis in that specific area and see what those properties sold in that area for the past 6 months to a year. But also how we get our evaluation is on the finishes that your house has inside. So if you have marble counters, countertops, tiled bathrooms, if it's modern, obviously that also determines the value of your property. So that is important to do because it gives you a fair competitive market related value which you can list your property for. Like I said earlier as well, there's no use putting your house on the market for 1.5 million, for example, if the houses in that specific area with the same size square meter of you is selling for 800,000. So that means you are overpriced, it's not going to sell. So it's very important to have an evaluation done on your property.
And that's obviously a service that people can come to you for,
Yes.
whether you, the seller of the property would contact you?
They can contact me and I will do the evaluation at no obligations, and it's a free service from myself as well.
Awesome. And then a lot of conversation around, I think you just mentioned that if your house is modern, if your property is modern, there's countertops, if there's tiles, if there's still carpets. I think a lot of the common questions that we've seen or discussions lately online was just the pool. So I think pre-COVID and 10 years ago, with the water situation that we have at the moment, a pool is definitely a luxury, right? So what is the situation on having a pool? Is it a value add? Is it a non-value add to the property? And I think obviously it depends on the buyer as well. But the current situation that we find ourselves in with water obviously does play a big role in terms of the maintenance of this pool.
Yeah, it does. A pool, to answer your question, yes and no. It all depends on the buyer.
Yes.
If the buyer is looking for a specific property with a pool, then obviously that pool will be to a value to him. But a lot of people actually find it as an expense. So it all depends on the buyer, but if you had to, I would say it doesn't add value to your property. It all depends on the buyer. If the buyer really wants a pool, to him it will add value to his property, but on pen and paper, doesn't add any value to your property. It's an expense.
Okay, that's awesome, and I think that was a lot of the questions or discussions that when I read up a little bit, that was definitely a key discussion point. And I must say, I agree with you. I think that's a personal value add, whether you want it
Yeah.
or not, because it obviously does have to do with the quality of lifestyle that you have at home,
Mm.
access to the pool. When we just had the terrible week that we had for the last 2 weeks. But I also think that it's good to know for people that's planning to maybe build a pool on their current properties, if they're looking at it from an investment perspective, to also understand later on how that might have an impact on the value of the property.
Yeah.
And I suppose it obviously does have to do with the market, as well. What is the current market? So during COVID, obviously you've now joined this company after COVID, and during COVID, there's been a lot of stats in terms of buying and purchases. But do you think that we are in a selling time at the moment? Is it a selling market or is it a buying market?
Right now, we're definitely in the seller's market. There's a lot of, how can I say, stock is flying.
Okay.
It's really
So,
flying now.
so some of these homeowners, for example, could be feeling the impact of COVID, and they could be
Yeah.
selling, or some of them are just ready to hand in the asset and take the investment from
Yeah,
many
for sure.
years. Because I do see a lot of people actually moving to their holiday homes because work from home now became a
Exactly.
reality.
Yeah.
So, if you are in the market and looking to buy a property, follow KW Explorer. I'm sure they are
KW Explore PE.
KW Explore PE,
Yeah.
and contact Dexter Kannemeyer. We'll definitely have his contact details on the live chat, and you'll find it on the podcast as well. Um, you've mentioned earlier saving up money. Now, affordability is key in buying a property, right? Because it's not just the purchase of the property, it's the rates, it's the taxes, it's the maintenance of the property that now becomes your responsibility. Affordability is quite a wide topic. So let's specifically talk about what you've seen in the last while, and I think we can link that to advice as well. How important is saving towards a deposit?
Laverne, yeah, having a deposit for a down payment for your property is really important. Um, Nowadays as well, even if you do apply for a bond, they might accept your application for 100% bond, but when you actually, that's actually your pre-qualification. When you go to the bank for pre-approval, because they go deep into your credit history and all that, um, your affordability. So by the time you get to the bank, you say no. They say sorry, we can only give you 70 or 80% of your bond that you
Okay.
applied for.
So that's quite key. So you get a pre-approved amount?
You get the pre-qualified amount, so that's
Yes.
from the bond originators.
Yes.
Then you get your pre-approval, which is from the actual bank who's going
itself.
to be loaning you the money.
Wow.
Yeah, but the banks obviously go deep into your credit history and all that. So there's a difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval. So it's always best to be pre-approved. Once you're pre-approved, and then you can contact your property practitioner to look for a house for you, which matches your criteria. So you don't be wasting anyone's time as well, you know.
And I think obviously just touching your credit record, obviously having a history of credit is quite
Yeah.
important to be evidence for a higher amount of bond if you obviously need it. Have you found that a lot of people were saving towards buying their property?
You know, the funny thing is, since I started, the few properties that I have sold has all been cash deals, so
Wow.
without bond. So yeah, I don't know where these buyers come from, but clearly they've been saving. I mean, it's been I think it's about 4 or 5 properties since I've joined that I've sold, and it was all cash deals. So I'm yet to come across somebody that's going to be taking out the bond with me. But remember, when purchasing a property, there's different costs involved as well. So you get your transfer cost, your transfer duty, your bond cost. But obviously, if the property is R1 million or less, then you don't have to pay your transfer cost. So your transfer cost is from your attorneys, and then the transfer duty is what you pay to SARS. But if your property is R1 million or less, you don't pay those transfer transfer costs.
Wow, thanks for sharing. The attorneys and all of that, do you take care of that, or is that the buyer's option?
Okay, look, obviously the buyer will always have they how can I say now, their preferred attorneys to work
Okay.
with, but we will offer our preferred, like, I'm not going to mention names, but
Yes.
there's a couple that we work with.
Yes.
If the buyer is not happy to work with them, then obviously they can get
Their own.
their own attorneys. And
Obviously, and they come at your recommendation because you've dealt with them, you're happy with them,
Yeah.
they understand the process, etc., etc. Again, that's a value add.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Even our in-house bond originators as well. We offer them as a service as well, at no extra cost, and also our life insurance. We got a financial advisor that works in-house with us as well.
awesome. What's the importance of life insurance?
Well, you putting me on the spot. To purchase a house now, you have to have life insurance.
And I think that's key. So although you feel I'm putting you on the spot, you brought that up, and I think a lot of people don't realize how important that is. And especially if you have this at an age where you've just finished your studies, you've gone into a job. What is the first thing we do? We normally, or the trend is to buy a cell phone, something that we want. And to buy a car, something that we want. But I don't think we have the conversation about get the life insurance at the value, at a certain value, because this will be a part of the process of owning your house or owning the property.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so this is quite an informative session, from affordability to the process to all the services rendered to certain things that we need to put in place. Now let's get to why you? Why agents? I think you just mentioned the commission part. So some people might think, well, I could either pocket the commission myself and I've got price to play with. But why you? What's the value?
Okay, so, necessarily, you get a lot of agents that will come in at a ridiculous amount of commission to charge, that they will charge. Others will come in much less than the average.
So I've just got a question there. Okay. It's not a percentage base. It's each agent has the limits.
It is percentage based on what the actual property sells for, but it's negotiable.
Yes.
But obviously on the average it's on 7.5%. But you'll get agents sometimes will come in 2% or 3%. And basically that's just killing the market, to be honest. And if an agent is not willing to negotiate, I know my worth, I know my value, I know what I'm going to bring to you, my services, okay? So if this agent is charging 2%, I'm just making an example,
yes,
and can't fight for his commission, for his money that he's bringing food, to put food on the table at them, why would you even trust this guy with your property or with your property to fight? Obviously you want to make the most money on your property. So if this is so easy for this person, this property practitioner, to negotiate on their money for their commission, why would you trust him to even negotiate for your property,
your sale of your property with the potential buyers? Yes, definitely. And I think that's quite important that you highlighted there. For you to put bread and butter on the table, it is sales driven, it's commission driven. And if you're not willing to strongly negotiate, let's call it your salary, what's the chances of you strongly negotiating for the owner to get the money that they're expecting? And that's a valid point.
Because my job is for me to sell your home in the shortest amount of time for the most amount of money. So if you can't negotiate your percentage where you know what that's your value, that's your worth. Like you say, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. So
yes. And I think that's an important element to the decision to decide on an agent, because I've seen a few listings where it's the same property listed with 3 different agencies.
That's called an open mandate.
Okay, so that's an open mandate, meaning I am the seller, I've got 3 different agents in there. Whoever obviously gets me the sale gets the commission.
But that also, for me personally, I don't like working with open mandates because sometimes you get different agencies advertising the same property but for different amounts. So I'll be listing it, or my valuation says 2 million, I don't know, say 2.2, 2.3. You just confuse the market like that. So what I do is I fight for sold mandates. So I will approach the seller, do the evaluation, take the photos, list the property. If it's not sold within 3 weeks or a month, then you can cancel my mandate, or you can make it an open mandate. Because
Okay, so that's good to know.
yeah,
For the seller, if you're looking for at least a 3 week lead time in terms of the sale of your house, you are saying your preference is a closed mandate,
sold
sold
mandate.
mandate, and you promise a delivery of a valuation, and you promise the services of the photos, the videographers, and you are promising a 3 week, whether it's a sale or whether the seller has the option to go somewhere else.
But you must remember as well, I say 3 weeks if it's priced correctly. I mean, like I tell my sellers as well, if he wants to be hard-headed and rather advise me how much he wants to list his property, I always ask them, like I asked one of my sellers before, do you want me to have a show house for you on a Sunday? Because I can have a show house for you, I can bring in traffic to look at your house, or do you want me to sell your house for you? It's a difference. Your pricing is number one. It has to be listed for the proper price, and that house will sell within, funny enough, that house will sell within its first week. Every week a house is sold if it's listed properly in the price range that it's supposed to, and not overpriced.
Wow, and that's obviously in comparison to the location,
Yes.
and the recent sales in the area.
Definitely.
And I'm sure obviously the valuation is based on quite a lot of things, in terms
Obviously
of
the
security.
amenities as well, what's close by in proximity to that area, hospitals, sought after schools, shopping centers, all of that you take into account before you do evaluation.
Awesome. That's quite a lot of information, and I can see a lot of people responding and saying very informative. And I think these are the type of conversations that we need to have, especially as youth. Some of our previous generations could not afford to have assets or have purchased homes to leave behind for their children or grandchildren. And I think especially the time that the youth find themselves in today, is a property an asset? And obviously if we're looking to invest in that asset, to start now, because
Yeah.
properties are not going to get any cheaper.
Sure.
We are where we are, and we're moving forward, and just like everything else, petrol, bread, food, everything else has increased, right? So I think this is the type of conversations we need to have, and anybody that's interested or have more questions, please feel free to contact Dexter Kannemeyer. Again, his details will be on the post, it will be on the podcast as well. Dexter, do you have any closing comments?
Yeah, I would just like to say that, you know what, people out there, the listeners, like I said earlier, if you guys are serious about real estate or you want to learn more about real estate, our company, we do offer training facilities at our offices in Newton Park. Reach out to me on Facebook. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. And it's never too late to start. For me, if I had to think 5 years or 10 years back, I would never known that I would have been a property practitioner today. And it's not easy, it's long hours, it's hard work, but it's rewarding. So I would say if you're interested in property, go for it, by all means.
Awesome. I think the current unemployment rate that we sit with at the moment definitely calls for creativity and flexibility in terms of career paths. Is it something that can be done part-time or full-time? I suppose it depends on what you want to get
Yes,
out of it.
you know what? In this industry, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. So it's obviously the time that you invest into your job, the work that you do. But you can do it part-time. Obviously, you have to become qualified first. So there is courses that you have to go through, which can take a year or two. Like I said, you would have to get your NQF5 or your NQ4, and then you do your other courses, your logbook training and all that. So In order to become qualified, you have to go through that process. Only thereafter you can do it part-time. So, yeah.
I think I think it's awesome that people know that those options exist. And like you say, if whoever's interested, they can contact you, they can come and see you. But I think it's also just creating awareness.
Yeah.
If you've been in sales, if you've been in an industry that's been hit, and property seems to interest you, there's definitely a career path. I've heard of many older practitioners, as they call them now, um, that's really grown with the industry. You've been part of that first purchase, and of course, if the buyer is happy with the service, they come back and they come back and they come back, and you really grow with that family. If property is their thing, or if moving is their thing, or you just move with the generation, and that's so awesome to see. It's like a little community.
Yeah, and in this industry as well, it's all about building relationships out there. So referrals are half of your income. So, for instance, I worked with you or with your mom, and your mom will refer me to your aunt and all that. Referrals is really important, and just building relationships in this industry. There's no time to have enemies out here.
I think the time that we find ourselves in, there's no time for enemies. I
Yeah.
think that the way to build the economy is to build the communities. And to build the communities, we need to build relationships.
For sure.
And I think it's just respecting one another, your job, your industry, and respecting the value add, because that's the way you put bread and butter on the table. What an awesome conversation. Thank you, Dexter, for your time.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Again, anybody that would like to make contact with Dexter, or just have any questions with regards to property, please feel free to contact him. His contact details is on the chat if you're on Facebook. It will be available on the podcast as well. That's it for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed the session, and I hope it was informative and valuable. This is Laverne van Wyk on Agape FM, where we bring the gospel nearer to you. Same time, same place next week. Have an awesome Thursday.